Hello everybody and welcome to another installment of my new player guides, where this week I can't believe we're 60% done at this point, but we are going through every hero from Marvel Champions core set in celebration of the 5-year anniversary, which I think actually is next week, but I wanted to have everything up. I think it was November 1st. I wanted to have everything up prior to that so that, when we actually get to the 5th anniversary, everybody from the core set is already represented. Regardless, here we are talking about Tony Stark, Iron Man, and we will be looking at his cards. We'll be taking a brief break to look at an example deck, and then we will look at his obligation and his Nemesis set to really get to the root of what makes Tony Stark good, bad, what kind of things should he be concerned about as you're playing him, and threats are coming. What archetypes does he fit into? And this will be obvious when we get to the deck, but I specifically with these decks wanted to find cards that were the core set plus 3 or 4 other packs, so that if you are a new player coming to this game, you have an example of here's what he's good at, here's an example of a deck that you may want to use as your roadmap going forward. Okay, I want to pick up this pack, I want to pick up this pack, and I want to pick up this pack because Tony Stark is my ride or die. Real quick before we get into all the hero pack discussion, I just want to remind everybody that if you enjoy hearing about encounter sets, go listen to Critical Encounters. If you just enjoy card-by-card analysis, go check out The Winning Hand. For think pieces and strategy, we have a great catalog with Get Up and Game. And then for gameplay, we've got Rey Plays Games and Solo Marvel Champion for your gameplay needs. But let's just look real quick at Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. He is a 3 recovery ultra ego with the genius trait and the ability Futurist. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 to your hand and discard the others. Limit once per round. And then he has 6 hand size and 9 hit points. I believe, as we've discussed, he is the lowest life point in the core set, but he is also just a dude in a suit of armor. I do think that the Futurist ability really is coming into its own. The release of the Next Evolution pack with Domino and the release of Digging Deep, which is a resource card that's wild, but when it goes to your discard pile from your deck, it gets put into your hand. So this could very well be a draw 3. You look, and you see a card that's not Digging Deep, and you see 2 Digging Deeps. That's living in a pretty much magical Christmas land, but there's also the possibility that you see a Digging Deep and something else and a third card, and you can pick which card you need in that moment and still get a resource back. Not as straightforward as what you would do with Domino, but still it is a thing that Tony Stark has now gotten. There's probably other things I'm not even thinking about from the last year or two that really empower him and make him into something more than he would have been for the first 3 years of the game. Regardless, let's look at Iron Man. He is a hero with 2 thwart, 1 attack, 1 defense, the Avenger trait, and he gets +1 hand size for each tech upgrade you control to a maximum of 7. And the phrase, I am Iron Man. And he has a 1 hand size and 9 hit points. So this is the hero that I feel like took the most amount of learning, especially in the core set. Rhino, you really want to be a hero. And multiplayer lets Iron Man be a good core set hero. But Rhino, you really want to be in hero as soon as possible because you don't have a lot of time. Luckily, you can use a turn, you can flip over, you can thwart for 2. You're kind of set back up really well. But in against Claw could scheme for quite a bit. You got to go through 2 main schemes, but no, he only. I'm gonna get this wrong. Let me just. I feel like I should know this. Oh, where's Claw? Oh, Claw's right here. I was playing with Claw recently. So, that's only when he attacks. Okay, so never mind. I don't know what I was. He doesn't double up. Either way, all the distraction. I will say against Claw, it's probably a little bit more lenient, but Ultron could get out of hand because he immediately gets a drone. And that means that you're suddenly, from the get-go, facing down 2 bodies. You want to start addressing them as soon as possible. You want to build... Iron Man, oh, I hadn't even thought about this. Okay, what do the core set heroes teach you? I mean, Captain Marvel teaches you how good card advantage is. I think Iron Man teaches you to mulligan, because you need to aggressively mulligan to get some tech in your hand. And luckily, there's other tech in the game, so you can take your hero kit and expand out and say, here's some other tech that I can introduce. But Iron Man's going to teach you the importance of aggressively mulliganing to find at least 2 tech, I would say. And I don't know, I didn't look at the pack close enough to say, like, what is the cost of this tech? We're going to discover that as we go through. But Iron Man's a hero you might find yourself spending a turn in Alter Ego and then moving to hero once you build up your base, because you need to, or else you're not going to have any hand size, which is an interesting quirk of just the core set hero. We haven't seen this since. We've seen low hand sizes, but we haven't seen something this extreme. I don't know if that just means like they found that the audience did not like that. Who knows? I don't know that for sure. Machine. Iron Man's hero-specific ally, or identity-specific ally. A 4-cost ally with 1 thwart, 2 attack, 4 health, with shield and soldier traded, and the action exhaust War Machine and deal 2 damage to him, deal 1 damage to each enemy. So, this actually is really good in the Ultron scenario when you're working through the core set, because he can just deal 2 damage to himself and take out most of the board. Don't love this card overall. I think that it has its uses. It has enough health to be able to use its ability twice and to just squirrel girl away a bunch of stuff. But still, it's pretty expensive. And if you're not doing the spread damage, it's kind of just an overcosted ally that, you know, can do something, but is kind of, it's leaving you, it always leaves me wanting more. The times I've played War Machine have just not really impressed me beyond being able to take care of a field of enemies. And then we will look at his support, Pepper Potts, a 3-cost support, persona traded, with an ability, resource, exhaust Pepper Potts, generate the resource of the top card of your discard pile. So this is another thing that I don't think we've looked at this design space again. I feel like this is a one-off, and it might even be a good category for something that we could do in the future. Overall, I do think this is an interesting resource generator. It makes you think about how you're going to sequence things. I think for people that come from other games, this can be a little jarring because you have to... This is, as far as I know, the only card that really cares about the sequencing of your discard pile so specifically. Like, you can worry about what is the topmost event in your, or the bottommost event in your discard pile, but this is like, you literally have to think about, how am I paying for my stuff? What things are going to the discard pile from play? That really decides what Pepper's able to do. And I think for some people, for using the futurist ability, I think for certain players, that level of nuance is something that I think does feed certain players. But for me, she's just an interesting resource. I think being a support, being something that's going to be harder for the villain to necessarily get rid of, is absolutely fine with me. Then we have Repulsor Blast. We have 3 copies. It is a 1-cost event, attack superpower, hero action, attack, deal 1 damage to an enemy, and discard the top 5 cards of your deck. Again, looking for uses with digging deep. For each printed energy resource discarded this way, deal 2 additional damage to that enemy. You can profit. You can get Digging Deeps back this way. There's other ones like White Fox, I think actually has a energy resource on her. So she will benefit. She will benefit you in this respect. You can discard her off the top. She counts for 2 damage, and you get her back. You get her into play, actually. If I'm wrong and she doesn't have the energy resource on there, I'm going to be blushing. Either way, I think this is cool. It's not as consistent as other things, but it also costs 1. 1 to deal... I mean, it could deal 11 damage. If you went super deep into printed energy resources, this could deal a lot of damage. And I think that is impressive in its own. But I think that in terms of just an attack, I think you have to think about it as this deals 5, and anything above that is just golden. I think you will get above 5 in the right deck, but I think you need to be conservative and say, what if only 40% of the cards I reveal are going to be energy, and so this hopefully will deal 5 damage. If that's where you're at, if that's your baseline, I think you're going to be very happy with this card. Then we have 2 copies of Supersonic Punch, a 2-cost event, attack, hero action, attack, deal 4 damage to an enemy, 8 instead if you have the aerial trait, which, let me just make sure I know this, I think it's just 2. Yeah, it's just 2. So you have 2 cards in his kit that grant aerial, and they are not constant, they are activated. But, that said, 2 cost for 4 damage, I think is pretty good. 2 cost for 8 damage is great. I like this card. It could be better. I think in terms of the core set and setting a baseline, this is a fine card for me. I think there are cards outside of his kit that I think I would like to pair this with. And if I can get him aerial, and this is a consistent 2 for 8, this is great. I wish it had overkill. That would be above and beyond, even better. I think that actually is something that you do need to keep in mind. Obviously, everyone loves swinging web kick. Everyone loves dealing 8 damage. But if you're dealing 8 damage, it's mostly going to be the villain. If you're attacking a minion and you don't have overkill, then this becomes an awful lot of damage that you worked. You jumped through a bunch of hoops to deal 8 damage against a 5 health minion. Either way, I'm sort of cutting it down. Overall, I think this card's really cool. Okay, then we have 2 copies of Powered Gauntlets, 2-cost upgrade, armor, tech. I suppose I should have looked at that. How much tech have we already looked at? Okay, this is the first tech card. I thought so, but I wasn't sure. 2-cost event, armor, tech. Hero action, exhaust, powered gauntlets deal 1 damage to an enemy. 2 instead if you have the aerial trait. So once again, this is pushing you to want to get the aerial trait. I think it's pretty good. I think I will always sing the praises of Domino's pistols, but this is a way that you don't have to be flipping over cards off the top of your deck to do consistent damage. If you're an aerial, it's even better. It's like hitting a wild resource with Domino. I think it's important, one, that you have tech. This is one of the cards you're going to be digging for, but I think also just having consistent damage when he does have low stats in everything except for thwarting. I think a consistent way to be dealing damage is important, and this will add to your hand size. It will add to the damage output you have every turn, and importantly, it will also separate your damage output. Your thwarting output is kind of separate from your hero, so you have the ability to use your hero for other things while you use your tech to do some of the things you want to do every turn, and this is a good example of that. Then we have Rocket Boots, a 1-cost upgrade, armor, tech again. Gives you +1 hit point. So you're going to go from, this will elevate you to 10 and 11. And the hero action, exhaust, Rocket Boots, and spend a genius resource, gain an aerial trait, gain the aerial trait until the end of the phase. The setback on all this is that you need to have a mental resource on hand. This is an essential card because it's doing what you want. It's adding hand size, it's adding hit points, and it's giving you the aerial trait, which is important to Iron Man. And it's good that there are 2 of these. One, because he needs 2 of them, and also, from a lore standpoint, he needs 2 of them so that he can fly. But he gets the additional health. I think the fun part about Iron Man is that you're sort of building a better hero. You're building up your hand size. You're building up your hit points. You're giving yourself aerial. This is a card you're going to want to dig for, even if you're digging for 1 copy. Then we have Stark Tower, a 2-cost support, location traded, alter ego action, exhaust Stark Tower, choose a player. That player returns the topmost tech upgrade in their discard pile to their hand. So this is when you want to start a Iron Man Rocket Raccoon run. These 2 will work very well together. Obviously, for the most part, you're going to be able to recycle Iron Man's tech. But there is always the option that there are other heroes that are going to have tech cards in their deck that they might want to recur, and this is a way to do it. I would say this doesn't rate highly for me, but I also know that like Iron Man isn't necessarily the hero for me, so some of my feelings are kind of like lessened just because I don't have strong ties to Tony Stark. Then we have Arc Reactor, a 2-cost upgrade, item, tech again, hero action, exhaust, Arc Reactor, ready Iron Man. I kind of have two minds with this card because it's nice to ready up Iron Man, and obviously when you get more cards that can make him better at whatever you're looking to do within your aspect, readying him up is always good. But this sort of feels like a card that like wants to be good, but there's not really anything within Iron Man's kit that's going to say, hey, ready him up is great. I guess you can thwart for 4 this turn, but you're not going to attack. Like, I guess it allows you to defend and then also do something else, but for the most part, this kind of feels like a out of place card, other than the fact that it gives you another tech, so it's going to grow your hand size. Then we have the Mark V helmet, a 1-cost upgrade, armor tech traded, and the hero action and thwart, exhaust, Mach 5 helmet, remove 1 threat from the main scheme, from each scheme instead if you have the aerial trait. So this is really cool. If you have the aerial trait, you can just take down all the schemes in play with no upper limit there. But importantly, this is one where you can save your boots activation. If there's only one scheme in play, you don't have to worry about trying to like jump through the hoops to make this better. It will just do what it's already going to do. I do feel like lowering 1 from each scheme is really cool. Lowering 1 from just the main scheme kind of feels like this, other than giving you a bigger hand size, this isn't doing a whole lot for you. And that's a little bit of a letdown. He has pretty consistent damage. He has pretty consistent thwarting. Obviously, he thwarts for 2. That's pretty good for a hero. But his repeatable, like his thwart event, this is his thwart event, and it's kind of lackluster. I think if you have aerial and you have the reason to be hitting multiple schemes, cool. If not, then it's just kind of paying your taxes every turn. You're just lowering the threat by the amount that the main scheme might be going up by. And then last card is Mach 5 armor, 3-cost upgrade, armor tech, you get 6 hit points. So at this point, you have a whole bunch of hit points. You might have 15, you might have 17. Yeah, there's not anything else to this card. It's very basic, it gives you what you need, and it makes sense that he would get a bunch of health from this, but that's kind of it. I'm actually sort of at a loss. Let me just see here real quick. I don't know, because I usually will sit here and tell you what my favorite card is, and I don't know what it is. I'm going to say Repulsor Blast, because I do like the idea of a 1-cost event that could deal 7 or more damage. Like I said, I think the line you want to go with is, I hope this deals 5 damage. This has a nice upper limit that could be really, really good. Not to mention, if you were to flip over the energy resource, that is 2 for the printed energy resource. So, I think in terms of just having a cool upper limit, this is my favorite card. But that said, I actually did not go into this, and I was going through all the cards. I did not necessarily jump out and say, like, this is my favorite card. Once again, that also is because Iron Man is not my go-to hero most of the time. I don't have the experience that I do with other heroes, but it might also be because there's nothing too flashy about him that really speaks to me as a player. All right, and here we are with the deck tech for this episode. This one will be pretty quick because I feel like what is good about this example deck is just showing off some of the cards that when I look at this, if I'm a Justice player and I was starting out, these are the kind of cards I would wanted to have gotten in general if I had just known better. So for this, you're going to need the core set. You're going to need Rise of Red Skull, the first campaign box, War Machine, Nova, and then Captain America and or Spider-Ham. I don't even remember which card comes from Oh wait, he's followed. Okay, follow is okay. So either way, so we've got the core set stuff like Daredevil and Jessica Jones. I think Spider-Man's the only one out of this that comes from a different one, but we'll get a nice, good picture there. To me, Peter Parker Spider-Man, the Justice Spider-Man, is an underappreciated gem. And honestly, with Tony Stark, this is one where you conceivably will be able to pay for this. Like, 5 is expensive. Don't get me wrong there. But I feel like if there was one card I would have added to this, it would have been Ingenuity, which is the genius traded resource generator that gets you a mental resource. I think having this in play is going to make things like playing this 5-cost ally a little bit easier. And I think the ability to remove 3 threat per person from a side scheme is valid. You're going to have a use for that, which is also why... sorry. I was thinking of a different... Chance Encounter is the Justice card that lets you go find more allies. But either way, actually that does change it a little bit. I think I would also want Chance Encounter in here, which I think is, I don't know what pack that's from either way, but all the same, I think Spider-Man's really good. I would consider putting Ingenuity into this deck if you want to go for the Ironheart pack. But then Clear the Area is such a good card, and Rise of Red Skull is a box that's worth getting. You get Spider-Woman and you get Hawkeye, and then you get a lot of good cards that I think are kind of core set plus cards that I think you should have in your card pool, and Clear the Area is just a really good example of that. Like, just the ability to be able to remove 2 threat from the scheme and draw a card if you've completed that scheme, or if you took the last threat off that scheme, then great. It's a good card advantage, only costs 1. I think it is a card that you want in your thing. 2 Against the World, just your team up card with War Machine, which in this case is with your ally. Obviously, as this says here, the person who built this deck built it as a team up deck with their War Machine deck. Still cool team up card, cool to just introduce team up in general. Like the idea that you have two characters together and you get to do something is really cool, and I think it's something that I wish they would do more of, and I wish could be a little bit better, because especially with the example of this one, 3 is a lot, and it does not have the team up keyword. What's that called? Alliance. It doesn't have the alliance keyword. This would be a really card to have the alliance keyword on. And then Yaw and Roll, good Nova card. Oops, not that. This. Just in general, being able to, as a hero response, when your hero thwarts, remove 3 threat from a scheme. So this is base 5 removal of threat if you have the aerial trait. Another reason to have aerial, another reason to play Iron Man. Like, I think Iron Man does really well in Justice, and this is a card that just enhances what he can do in Justice. Then we have just your basic resources. You have Avengers Mansion. You have Avengers Mansion. You have the Helicarrier. Everybody knows that. Interrogation Room. I think one of is fine, especially because you can only use one of, and it's got the resource you're looking for. Quinn Carrier, which oh, really? Oh, okay. I was gonna say there has been 3 printings of this either way, but this is quintessential Avenger card, another resource. This is another way to make those expensive War Machine and Spider-Man easier to do. This will help you if you are in a Avenger deck. This is a card that's probably already been on your radar, and for good reason. I suppose that does add another pack to all this. Like, oh no, sorry, it doesn't. Wow, I said that as if, like, when you get the War Machine one, there's no art on it. I don't know why I just said that, but I did. Long day. Okay. Then Vigilante Training, another card you get from the War Machine pack. This one I'd get a little less use out of, but I would say that in a small card pool, this is helpful because it gives you recursion for your events. If you're able to recur in a Justice event twice, or just 2 events once, all the better. Like, this just adds consistency to your deck that, like I said, especially in a smaller card pool when you don't have access to a bunch of really good cards, having that card advantage is just key. followed. We talked about this before, but I think this is really cool. It's a effect. The dog is just going crazy over here. I think it is a effect that you probably grow out of eventually, but if you are somebody that is trying to defeat side schemes, this is a card that should be on your radar. If you're a cable player, this is probably should be on your radar. All the more reason that Captain America is a good pack to get. Heroic Intuition, I already know that. And Skilled Investigator is a card that I see a lot of people play, and I have no problem with it. It's just one that I often find myself sort of... This and Beat Cop are two cards that I like, but I just don't use myself that often. But overall, I think this is a good sample deck. Like, if you are into Iron Man, this is a deck that with just a few extra packs, you can make something really cool out of. I wish, and I kind of was racing to try to find good examples. I do wish that I could find a pack for a core set hero where you could get like 4 cards out of a single pack. Like, oh man, like just Spider-Man, like once he had the Drax pack, he was just like made. And that's a bad example. That probably isn't a good example at all. But like, it'd be really cool if I could just find an example of one where they clicked, and this was the pack that really made this hero come alive. And maybe I'll find that over the course of the series. But let's get back to our review. I got the Nemesis kit and all that stuff coming up for you. All right, so this actually got me thinking. This is me the next day as I'm editing this. I found this deck after figuring out a way to kind of like cut everything just the right way to get the deck search on Marvel CDB to give me a deck that matched the criteria of you're only picking up one more pack. And this is amazing. This is the kind of deck that I wanted to find, and I just wish I had found it earlier. You get 2 decks this time. So this is a budget protection deck that just uses the, the Spider pack from the SPDR from the Sinister Motives wave, adding in Repurpose, adding in Energy Barrier and Force Field to give you not only more tech, Medical Team is not one of those things, either way, but Repurpose is an archetype essentially that just asks you to discard tech upgrades to boost up your thwart, attack, or defense, and then you get that bonus and a ready. So that means that you can take Iron Man, who's got kind of so-so stats. Oh, of course. Well, this costs 2, and you can see what it does. It is a green card, but this can boost you by 2. This can boost you by 3. So taking Iron Man stats and making them something worth that extra ready. And as we discussed with his Arc Reactor, where he gets a ready, my opinion of it kind of still stands that there isn't a whole lot to do with the Arc Reactor, but a deck like this does give you the chance to make readies worth it. And until the end of the round. So yes, so suddenly the Arc Reactor will have a little bit more purpose. Obviously, it's always nice when you can ready your hero. Sometimes you need to take a defense that you weren't necessarily planning on, and ready is always a good thing, but I feel like Iron Man has stats that don't necessarily reflect that. If the Arc Reactor readied all of your tech, like Spider kind of does, Spider is much more of a all of her tech does stuff. So the Repurpose archetype is something that I would advise for Iron Man. Wanted to sneak this in here because I found it and I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So now we're going to go to the Obligation and Nemesis set. And we are back to looking at the Obligation. So Tony's obligation is business problems, which is an obligation given to the Tony Stark player. You may flip to Alter Ego, choose to either exhaust Tony Stark and remove business problems from the game, or exhaust each upgrade you control, discard this obligation. Obviously, even as a new player, you can interpret these obligations however you want. I will firmly say that if you exhaust all your upgrades to discard this obligation, you're probably in a very bad place. This feels like one that, because Tony is independent of his cards, his upgrades do the things for him, his body is less important. It seems pretty easy to me to say, I'm just going to I'm going to exhaust Tony and just let that be how we resolve this. Get rid of this from the game. You don't have to worry about it for the remainder of the game, and just move on. Because his upgrades, I feel like his upgrades are more important than Tony Stark the Man. Then we have Whiplash, a minion with 2 scheme, 3 attack, 4 health, and in the criminal trait, and retaliate 1. In terms of where we were in the MCU at the time, I feel like this is a viable minion, viable nemesis for Tony Stark. The other nemesis I can think of is problematic, so we wouldn't have done that. Although Shang-Chi kind of solved that going forward. But either way, we've got a minion with retaliate. He deals a lot of damage. He has a decent amount of health. But he has low enough health that you should be able to push through him with your punch attack to get rid of him, avoid the retaliate damage. He's kind of just a speed bump. He's something that I'm more worried about him attacking you once. So if I can just avoid his attack for a turn or two, then maybe I just ignore him altogether. We do have his side scheme that he comes into play with when you hit Shadow of the Past, and that is Imminent Overload, a 3-threat scheme with, when this is revealed, place an additional threat here, so hinder 1. So this is going to start at least 4, maybe 7 threat on it. This I would get rid of just to slow down the game, because if the main scheme gets out of hand, this could be the culprit. That said, it's got 3 boost icons on it, so once you get rid of it, it could come back and really get you real hard. But I would prioritize the side scheme, getting rid of the side scheme over getting rid of Whiplash. Once again, if the 3 damage every turn, that attack for 3 is going to be a problem, then just find an attack for 4 plus damage and get rid of him so that you don't have to retaliate. But other than that, like, he's just kind of a dude. We have his Electromagnetic Backlash, which is a treachery. When revealed, each player discards the top 5 cards of the deck. For every printed energy resource that player discarded this way, they take 1 damage. So this is going to fight back against what Iron Man wants to do. This is well crafted in terms of like hitting you, same way that like Cable, his Nemesis kit with Strife, played up against the exact thing that Cable wanted to do. Iron Man wants to use energy resources to do several things, so this can be something that will come back and hit you hard. And it's going to hit everybody hard. Like, obviously there are some people that want other resources. Even to some extent, Tony Stark wants other resources. He wants the mental resource, but this can surprise you. And I think you do have to keep it in mind, like, how deep into energy resources am I? How many cards are left in my deck? What percentage? How much health do I have? Like, this is a card to factor in when the time comes. And the last cards for today are Electro Whip Attack. Treachery, when revealed, choose to either deal 1 damage to your hero for each upgrade you control, or choose and discard an upgrade you control. With the boost ability, if the villain is making an undefended attack, choose and discard an upgrade you control. So, I think this is one where it's pretty easy to make the call contextually, whatever is the call when you need to do that. To me, this is one where I would just get rid of an upgrade. Obviously, with Iron Man, it's a little bit more expensive because then that turns into, that's cutting into your hand size. But that's also why I said, you need to factor this in based on what is most important in the moment. Is there an upgrade you just don't care about? Because I guess additionally, you're not always playing exclusively with Iron Man upgrades. You might have an upgrade in play that just, maybe you're in aggression and you just have the one that boosts your attack, or you're in protection and you have the one that boosts your defense. There are upgrades that you can get rid of that don't affect your hand size, that don't affect your health, that you can just get rid of. And I feel like that might be most important. Especially if you are heavy on upgrades and the damage is going to be a big kick to you, then just get rid of one of your upgrades. And there we have it, Iron Man. I think a really fun hero. I'm happy that he was going to make it into the core set no matter what you did, especially with where we were in 2019. Endgame had just come out. We just lost Iron Man in Endgame. overall, there's no way that Iron Man wasn't going to be in this. If this had come out in 2001, Iron Man would not have been a hero in Marvel Champions, but in 2019 he was. I like him in terms of just being a cool hero that has an interesting gimmick that we haven't really touched back on. Each Iron Hero, Iron War Machine, and what is her name? Why am I suddenly blanking on this? Riri Williams, Ironheart. Oh my gosh, why was that so hard? Okay, each of the Iron characters has sort of had this build-up gimmick. In some cases, it's building up ammo. In some cases, it's upgrading your armor. And Iron Man is a good start to that. Like I said, what Pepper does, we haven't really seen since, as far as I can remember. And this extreme one hand size is definitely something that, like I said, teaches you how to mulligan. He's not the hero for me. There are so many heroes now that there are just other heroes that I enjoy more. But I can respect Iron Man. I think he's an interesting hero, and I'm happy that he's in the game. But until next time, when we talk about She-Hulk, I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.